Ladies and gentlemen, Hillary Beaumont.
Okay, so I wrote a story for Halifax Magazine on why young people don't vote, and there are a few of you in the room tonight. So this is my attempt to get you to vote, and I promise it will solve many of the problems facing those of us under 45. Let's start with some of the problems. This is something I don't own, and few of my friends own this. It's vastly more difficult for young people today to go to university, find a job, buy a house, and start a family. Our parents and grandparents had it pretty easy. In Halifax, we're struggling to find stable employment and pay down student debt, which is part of the reason that baristas are unionizing. Whatever your thoughts are on cafe unions, these baristas are trying to stay in Nova Scotia against the tide of young people who are leaving. In the local job market, people under 45 are competing against the baby boomer generation for new jobs. And we're losing. Workers 45 and older made up 97% of labor force growth in Halifax between 2006 and 2012. Yeah. Get this. We're graduating with an average of 37 grand in debt nationally. 1 in 3 of us takes a low-skill job after graduation, and the national youth unemployment rate is double the national average. Yeah. So Springtide found the top 3 issues for young Nova Scotians are jobs and the economy, social welfare and poverty alleviation, and the environment. Do you recognize any of those issues in Canadian policy? Because I don't. Few policies reflect what we actually want. So why do we care so much about jobs? The median net worth of Canadians under 34 is $25,000. Over 65, it's 460 grand. That's 18 times as much wealth. Now compare those numbers to government spending. Each year, the government spends 45 grand on seniors, and I know what you're thinking, only a quarter of that goes toward healthcare, but the government spends a minuscule 12 grand on Canadians under 45. So these figures aren't actually that surprising given voting trends. So what does this have to do with voting? Well, these numbers pair quite well with voting demographics. Seniors are voting, and young people are not. So 70% of Nova Scotians over 55 cast a ballot in the 2013 election. My parents and grandparents are organized voters. They know what they want, and they show up to get it. This is partly due to age trends. We're more likely to vote as we age. So who doesn't vote? The vast majority of people under the age of 34 did not vote in the 2013 election. No wonder government policies don't reflect our desires. Government does not have to listen to us because we don't vote. Okay, so we're engaged in other ways. We're protesting, we join lobby groups, we volunteer, we care about social justice and the environment. We participate in the annual World Naked Bike Ride. And I'm not telling you guys to give those things up. Keep going. By not voting, we're missing out on one direct influence on policy. If we care about jobs, social justice, and the environment, we should be using every method to influence these policies. If we increase our voting turnout, policy will begin to reflect our desires. Okay, you say, but this current system isn't a good one. Mark Coffin described the current system as a vending machine. As a voter, you don't have much influence over what ends up in the machine. You can only choose from the available options, and those options could probably be better. Beer, for example. We know part of the problem is the winner-take-all system, but we also know the system is responsive to large groups of motivated people who vote as a bloc. If we turn out to vote, we will have more of a say on these issues and if the system should reform. Okay, so here's something I really want you to remember. If you compare eligible voters under 45 to the number of voters who did show up to vote over 45, there are more of us than there are of them. We make up a sizable chunk of the population. Just imagine the difference we could make if we all showed up to vote. Okay, so if you think sitting out sends a message, you're wrong. When surveyed by Springtide and Elections Canada, young people gave many different reasons for not voting. There's no one reason people don't vote, so there's no one message to be gleaned from the non-voting public. Okay, I don't care who you vote for. I honestly don't. You can spoil your ballot, as this Scottish person did. We need to show up. That's the first step. If we show up, our names will be checked off voters lists and our demographic will finally appear in the stats. It's on politicians, yeah, I know, I like that one. It's on politicians to appeal to young people, but they aren't motivated to act, and they won't act until we stand up and start voting. Just picture the little beads of sweat on their foreheads if, for instance, climate change became a major national issue. Okay. So this is the ideal, right? So polling stations that way, all the cyclists, like, okay, you nudists, go to the polling station. If we show up, we send a message to politicians that we care, that we're voting, and they need to start appealing to us. So next election, I expect every eligible voter in here to mark a ballot. Thank you.